Hi everyone, it's Zach with Palantir Research. We just went through a tumultuous week here if you've been watching the stock price closely for Palantir. I'll go over the news in the video over the week shortly, but my thoughts on this for the price at least are the same as always. It's noise as usual. Companies, especially like Palantir, that can gain a big following from a narrative like AI is prone to volatility. And everyone has their own thoughts on valuation, from over to undervaluation, but even so we've seen all kinds of scenarios of staying overvalued and growing your financials into that valuation versus becoming undervalued, and then the financials will speak louder. You never really know, and this can actually fluctuate even within the same company and in a short amount of time. This will always be misaligned in my opinion for Palantir because of these narrative pulls. But long story short, it's just noise to me, and I'm happy with the shares I have considering I've built out my position. So the week now for the news where Palantir is standing out is with the smaller stuff. I don't make videos on this, so I'll briefly touch on those, but also touch on the things that I made videos on as well for those who missed them. So always, I like to start out with Ether Square because he's really great at finding news that interests me myself the most, since it's about potential clients and things that we don't really know about. We've got a couple posts, the first one here from last Sunday, August 13, pointing out that MassMovo, which is the owner of Yoigo and Pepe Phone, I believe, is using Palantir Foundry. Ether Square is from Spain, and so he probably has a lot more familiarity with these, but that's a 15 million user base for a telecommunications company in that region. They're around a $3.5 billion market cap, so the typical large client for Palantir, especially for Foundry, companies that are managing so many data points can really leverage Palantir's products. The second link from Ether Square is Decra, which is a German company of around 50,000 employees. As you can see from the theme of the two players, they are international commercial organizations or non-government, which can always become a bright spot for Palantir in the future, even if international right now, especially on the commercial side, has been slogging behind. The adoption of Palantir may just be a little bit difficult, of course, with their reputation or just not being known as well, and of course the use of domestic products over international considering it's a US product, but planting the seeds is important, especially commercially, so hopefully that's a turning point eventually in some time. Another news point is Joe Lonsdale did an interview with a very early engineer, Bob McGrew from Palantir, who was there for 10 years. Please note, the main focus of the interview is his role at OpenAI and the work there and thoughts around artificial intelligence. But getting an idea of the mindset of the people who worked at Palantir pre-DPO is always interesting to me as an investor because the culture appears to still be entrenched very strongly in the organization of being product and solution focused. Obviously, there's the pros and cons. We've seen this. I made a video also on the sales being hurt, but the most important part was that he was part of Palantir's journey and it kind of formed who they are today. So next, I made a couple brief videos on this, that institutional activity is slowly creeping up. So check that out for more details. There's a couple videos, one specifically on Asian institutions, but also in general. In the latter video, I did compare the two data points since there was some time between them being made. And the trend right now is in the positive direction with more net buying than selling. I point out some big jumps like Morgan Stanley increasing their shares by 56%. But always note a warning for 13F filings, that data is delayed, showing quarterly activity for institutions. So it's always an interesting big picture kind of metric and something to watch over time, but it's not as actionable for me personally. So other quick highlights from the week also that I've covered in videos. Palantir also was mentioned in Forbes as a business benefiting from the war in Ukraine. They also mentioned we're being a guest for the upcoming AI Safety Summit. So these are just quick points that Palantir is slowly getting their media attention away from maybe the Peter Thiel spy company narrative. But hopefully it still creates better entry points for potential audiences in the future that are relatively neutral, even though they're not completely unbiased against Palantir. And lastly, my latest video around Palantir right now is that this talks about the culture of Palantir still around sales being kind of weak. I've actually covered this before months ago, but was curious on things have changed or if any new points are being provided by employees on their pros and cons of working at the company. What prompted this actually was Palantir Xing or tweeting out their very low acceptance rate of 0.7%. And that's very small compared to even Ivy League institutions that they use as an example. Essentially, I think they're trying to hire the best and brightest, and maybe they're trying to egg them on maybe or motivate some folks to apply for the reputational part of it. It's almost as if they're posing it as a challenge to show if you can get into Palantir or at least get an offer, you're the cream of the crop, right? So it might be playing at the ego of these kind of high performing individuals, but you never know, it might really work out. You can try to appeal to them this way. But just my speculation, hopes this catches up you folks on Palantir's news for the week. Feel free to comment other significant portions I may have missed below, and I'll see you in the next video.